The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Valerie Borak, and I have Liz Pateo on the line with me from FastPath. And today we are going to be presenting to you Audit Trail Powered by FastPath. A couple housekeeping items I want to review right before we get started. This webinar is being recorded. You can enter your questions in the question section in your menu for GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, and we will answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions after the webinar is over, you can always reach out to sales@plumblineconsulting.com, or you can reach out to your Microsoft partner. So we're going to just go over a couple things before we get started. Who is Plumbline Consulting? Most of you know who we are. We are headquartered in Findlay, Ohio. We have over 100 add-on modules for Dynamics SL, and we are also in charge of the Microsoft support, development, and marketing contracts. Then we have FastPath on the line with us. They are founded in 2004. They're a Microsoft Gold ISV and ERP partner, and they have over 1,000 customers using their products. One thing I want to mention to all the SL people on the line is that we know that the SL Fall Conference was canceled this year, but that it has been rescheduled in St. Louis in April. So please go on to the SL Users Group website and register for the new conference. If you were supposed to attend the one that was supposed to happen in September, you're already registered, but go check out the new dates, locations, and get your information. Plumbline Consulting has an SL 2011 year-end update package that is available to all our SL 2011 users. If you are still a user of SL 2011 and you need to get your year-end updates, please reach out to your partner about this year-end update package. We also have just newly released our Quick Find, AKA Rainbow Search module, with a new functionality that's super exciting. It's export your data into an Excel pivot table. So our Quick Find comes in all the standard SL modules and makes finding information in SL super fast, and you're able to export the information from the search grid into an Excel pivot table. One last piece of information I want to make sure everybody is aware: if you don't have an ACA, Affordable Care Act software that you have, that if you don't have one in place at this time, please make sure to reach out to your partners about Affordable Care Act and becoming compliant, because those requirements are still in place for the 2017 filing year. So we do have a software, cloud-based, that pulls directly from SL, but you don't have to have SL payroll. It's our Integrity Data's ACA SL edition. And if you need more information about ACA and filing capabilities, again, reach out to your Microsoft partner, or you can reach out to us. Now, with all of those housekeeping pieces taken care of, we're going to get into the real reason why you've attended today, and that is Audit Trail Powered by FastPath. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Liz, and she's going to start talking about our two of the products that they have to offer, and then we'll share her screen, and she's going to go into a live demo for you on the products. So Liz?
Hi guys, thank you. Thanks Valerie for having us, and we're super excited about our new partnership with Plumbline. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit today on the FastPath tools. And Val, so we're going to show the Audit Trail tool, but I always like to tell you about the different tools that we have. So if there's questions about those, or you would like some more information, you can just contact Valerie or the sales team at Plumbline, and they can give you a bunch of information. And so Assure is our security, access review, and segregation of duties analysis platform. And basically, if you or anyone in your organization is ever tasked with having to take an in-depth look at your Dynamics SL security and having to have an understanding of where the potential risks are in your organization based on that security, this is the tool for you. What we have is a rule set built specifically for Dynamics SL that examines the user security and tells you where there are potential overlaps in security that could create risk in the organization. For example, if a user has access to create a vendor and pay a vendor, technically that's a risk. It's not a preventive tool. It does not stop the user from doing their job. But what it does is it allows you as an organization to make some determinations. Should the user have that security? If the answer is no, then you'd want to go into SL and make some changes so that they no longer have access to one or more of those items. But if the user should have that security, then it allows you to document what you're doing to control that risk or mitigate that risk in the organization. So we do have a full risk mitigation platform that allows you to document all of your internal controls so that when the auditors come in, it makes it really easy for them to have an understanding of what your system access looks like, where the potential issues are with it, and what you're doing to mitigate those issues. And so you become much more proactive to auditor requests rather than being reactive. Okay, so that's our Assure tool. And then our Audit Trail tool is a continuous monitoring solution that tracks all changes to critical data. And this is the tool that we're going to show you today. Basically, you can track a multitude of things, pretty much anything that you need to track. And we're going to show you some special features that should hopefully make this tool, really exciting and applicable to your organization. So with that, Val, do you just want to change me to the presenter, please?
Yep, I sure do. Change presenter. There you go.
Great. So what I have up on my screen is our client, our GRC Studio. So this is where you can see that we have our tools, the Assure and the Audit Trail tool, etc. We're going to concentrate mainly on the Audit Trail tool today. And this is where we're going to have our reports for all of the data changes that we're collecting, and then we have them broken out into segregated reports, and you can always add new reports to this section. There is a report generator that continuously allows you to build new reports. However, prior to talking about the reports, we have to talk about how the data gets to these reports. So if I wanted to run an SL vendor change report, I have to do some configuration first to get the data out there to get into that report. So our tool has a separate configuration module. Okay, so this gets installed in your environment, and what you do is you connect to the SQL Server where your Dynamics SL databases reside. And when you do that, okay, you're going to have full visibility into all of the databases on that SQL Server. And the advantage to that is you can actually audit anything at all that exists in your Microsoft SQL Server environment. You don't have to audit Dynamics SL databases specifically. So if you have other third-party products that could create custom databases in your organization, now you have a method to audit those products as well. And you don't have to go out and look for a separate auditing tool. It's all within one. So we're just going to connect to an SL database, and when I hit connect, what it's going to do is it's going to load every table in that database. And so I've already preloaded it. And all of the tables in the database are going to appear on the left-hand side. And you can see there's a great number of tables. Okay, and then on the right-hand side, it's just showing the tables that I've already made selections on to audit. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to come out here and you're going to say, okay, I want to audit specific areas of my system. Maybe I want to see who made changes to customers, accounts, vendors, AP checks, things like that. So we would find the relevant tables, and we'll talk about the account table, and you would choose your event types. Insert when we're creating a new account, update when we're modifying an existing account, or delete when we're deleting an existing account. Okay, and then within that, we see the columns that are available within this table, and we're going to select only the relevant columns. Okay, so you see that there's quite a few columns here, such as last updated date and time, last updated program, and last updated user. And if we're already tracking modifications, we know who's doing the last update because we're going to get a record with that modification in there. So this becomes redundant. We don't necessarily have to track this. And in instances where these fields are automatically updated during month-end close, I think some of the customer tables and the vendor tables and things like that, when you do a month-end close, even though you're not going out and touching the vendors, it's going to update these fields. We're not going to track that in our audit trail. We're not going to have all of that unnecessary data in our audit trail reports because we're just not going to choose to audit those columns. Okay, so when we make these selections, we now are are telling it exactly what it is we want to audit. So I always like to throw in some audit trail best practice information here, okay? A lot of times, organizations aren't quite sure exactly what they want to audit. So what they say is, hey, you know what? We're just going to audit everything and then we'll figure it out. We'll look at the reports and we'll figure it out. Okay, I'm going to tell you, don't ever do that. That's a very bad idea, because what happens is those reports are going to be thousands upon thousands upon thousands of rows long, and you're never going to get anybody to put their hand up in your organization and say, hey, I volunteer to review that. Okay, so what you want to do is actually have those internal discussions, talk about where your risk areas are within your organization, and be pretty strategic about what it is that you want to audit. And you can start off small. Maybe pick your biggest risk area. Maybe it's around, the payables function and, vendor creation, vendor modification, AP checks, right? And start with that. And pick the items that you think are necessary. Start to review your reports, and then you can always come in and tweak it and make changes, and then go on to another area and add audits for that area, etc. Okay, so that's kind of best practices, because, again, you don't want to audit things that aren't going to be looked at. If they don't have a business impact, it doesn't really make sense to track them. And then you'll notice that there's a couple of items here in orange where it says users equal to and applications not equal to. That's because we can do some conditional auditing as well. And you can flip this, you can have it say users not equal to if you want. So let's say that, and you do that under file options, by the way, so we can say users not equal to. So let's say there was a service account that updated your, let's say there was a service account that updated your account table every month just from an integration that your auditors are completely fine with. And they say, you know what, we don't need to see changes made by sysadmin. You can come here and exclude that, so they won't even get to your audit trail report if you wanted to do some conditional auditing. Or one of the other benefits of our tool is we can track changes that happen from any system, not just Dynamics SL. So let's say somebody logs into Microsoft SQL Server and writes an update statement against your data. We're going to see that. Let's say you have another integration or eConnect routine or something that updates your data. We're going to see that, and we're going to tell you the origination of those changes. So let's imagine for a minute that we have an external website system, a web ordering system that we call Solomon. And our customers can go out to our website and order widgets, and they put in all of their information, etc. They can put in, their name, their billing address, their shipping address, their credit card information. They choose their widgets, they check out, and everything is great. And every night, Solomon dumps the information into Dynamics SL. And our auditors have said, hey, you know what? We're really cool with that integration. We don't need to see those changes, but we certainly want to see if somebody makes a change to the data once it's already in SL, or maybe from SQL or whatever. So we can say, okay, well, we don't want to track when the changes come from Solomon, but we certainly do want to track when they come from other places. Okay, so there's lots of flexibility in how we can set up these audits to have them be the most efficient audits possible. And what that does is that really helps our reporting side, right? Because the key to any audit trail tool is not just the implementation and the configuration, it's the data review. Okay, and I'm going to give you a very good example of why I say that. A few years ago, we had a customer who purchased our Audit Trail tool, actually quite a few years ago. They had purchased our Audit Trail tool, and we thought, everything was fantastic, and they thought so too. Well, they came to us a few years ago after they'd been using the system for a few years and said, hey, we really would like to revisit our Audit Trail install and train some people, and just kind of have some additional training and talk about the tool and how we're using it. And we said, okay, are there any problems? Are you experiencing difficulties, etc.? And they said, no, we don't have issues with the Audit Trail tool. It's actually working perfectly. We have issues where we just finished prosecuting one of our staff members for embezzling $246,000, and it was all very well documented within our Audit Trail tool. Nobody took the time to review the reports. So with that being said, making sure that your reports look good and are easy to read and understand is a key goal when you're configuring the Audit Trail tool. So that's why, when I look at this customer table and I see that almost every column is checked, I kind of want to say, well, maybe I should evaluate this a little bit. Do I really care about a fax number changing when we haven't sent a fax in forever? We do everything primarily in the US language. Do I care about the language ID, et cetera? So I want to make sure that, we're auditing really the most pertinent fields, okay? So once we've configured our audits, we will then go ahead and generate triggers. So when we generate triggers, that is the only step that will actually make the audits happen. I can come in here and check to my heart's content and uncheck to my heart's content. Nothing will change in my auditing configuration until I generate these triggers, okay? So every time I make a change, whether I add a field or I remove a field, I must generate the triggers, okay? That's the only thing that's going to create the create the trigger on that new column or remove the trigger from a column I no longer wish to track. So once all of that is configured, now we can start talking about the reports. And this is really the most important part, these data reviews, okay? And we're going to show you how we make it pretty easy, hopefully, to do these data reviews, okay? So we're going to pop into our GRC Studio now, and we're at our Audit Trail area, and we have a data change section, which is just all of the raw data. And so these are all of the tables that have changes logged to them, and I can select them all, and then I can, oops, I have to hit the OK button when I do that, and then I can change the date here a little bit so that I can make sure I'm capturing my data, and I'll click Go. And there's a couple of things that I want you to take note of. The way that all of our reports are laid out is in this grid fashion where we have the dark blue columns, and then the light blue is our column header area where we can group and ungroup. So right now in my report group by table name and event, I want to go ahead and ungroup that. And maybe I want my company name to be first. So I can move these columns around as much as I want. I can play with them. Maybe I want the user that made the change right here next to the event type, okay? I want to see it first and foremost right up front, something like that. So I can certainly make these changes. And if I want to keep these changes, I don't want to have to do this every time I come in. I can hit Save Layout. So now, the next time I go to that data change area, if I go back here, you can see I don't have the groupings or anything like that. It's all still saved, okay? So I can do that. The other thing that I can do is I can very quickly filter. So maybe I want to see everything that happened in Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, I can just pick those two in my filtering. So you'll notice there's a little key above every column, and I can certainly filter. The cool thing is I have the ability to edit and build these filters as well. So I have a filter editor here that gives us a lot of different operators, so I can create some pretty funky and cool filters to be able to quickly see relevant data. And the nice thing is I can save those filters so I don't have to rebuild them every time either. Okay, so this is just a quick way of looking at the data. Any of this data can be printed. It can be exported. We have 8 different file types, including PDF and Excel, which are the 2 most commonly exported ways of looking at the data. And let's talk about, so that's like our raw data. That's our data change area. But let's say I really quickly wanted to see vendor changes. I don't want to have to come here and filter out onto the vendor table or just select the vendor table. I could certainly do that, but it's just a little bit tedious. And then the other thing is, so we can see here the column name and all of that. But if I go to my vendor change report, okay, and I'll just backdate this. I like this better because I can give security to all of these different reports too. So let's say I want my AP manager to have access to this report. I don't want her to have to see all of the data changes. There might be secure information in there. Maybe we're tracking changes in sensitive tables, and I don't want everybody to see that. So we can give security to the individual reports so that AP personnel can only see AP related reports. Sales staff can only see sales related reports, etc. Okay, so that's another benefit of being able to break out these reports. Yet another benefit is not only are we going ahead and giving you the ability to print and export, we're giving you the ability to schedule these reports for automatic delivery. So one of the things is my AP manager is not going to log in here and run this report and export it and look at the data, et cetera. It's going to take her 5 minutes just to do that process. Okay, well, let's make it easy on them then. Let's schedule the report for automatic delivery and have it sent straight to her inbox in either Excel or PDF format. Not going to have any excuses at that point not to do the data review, right? Okay, so the way that we do that is there is an add to schedule button. And we already have a whole bunch of scheduled reports because we do a lot of demos on this box, but we'll create a new one. And we'll just call it weekly vendor report. Okay, and we have a bunch of different criteria. So if we need to create daily reports, monthly reports, et cetera, we could do that with any of the reports. So we're going to do a previous week to date report because we're going to have it sent every Tuesday. If we wanted a daily report, we could do last number of days. We could even do custom date ranges. So we'll go ahead and click next. We're not going to add filters. So remember I told you we could build filters. We can then take those filters that we apply and add them to the report. So we're only sending a subset of data if we wish. And I'm going to show you how we do that next because there are some very valid reasons to do that filtering in the scheduled reports. But in this instance, we don't want to send any filtered data. We want to send the whole list of all the data changes that happened in the previous week. So we're going to go ahead and click next. Okay, and then we're going to save. And now we're going to determine who should get this and how. We can email this in either PDF or Excel format. So maybe I want Cassidy to get it in Excel. I also want him to get it in PDF, but I also want it to go to WIP in PDF. Okay, and then I also want to save this to a folder somewhere. I can do that as well. I can save it to a network drive, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and save this in PDF format. So you can have multiple delivery options. And then this is a weekly report. So we're going to choose the day of the week we want it delivered on. And we're going to have this report start as soon as next Tuesday. And we're not going to give it an end date. We can even choose what time of day that it runs and is delivered. And I'm going to talk about that when I give you the next example. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click next. And now this is all great. It looks good. I'll hit schedule, and now this report is scheduled for automatic delivery. At any point in time, if I would wish to stop the delivery of this report, I could delete it. I could just I can change the schedule. If all of a sudden it's not Cassidy who should be the recipient, it should be somebody else. I don't need to delete and start over. I can just click edit schedule. If I want to change the day of the week it's set to, I would go ahead and hit edit schedule, things like that, so I can make changes as we go along. But let's go back to that vendor change report for just a second here. Let's say on the, every week I want the full vendor change, but we print checks daily in my organization. We're pretty busy. We have a lot of checks going out the door, so we have a daily check run. And what I want is every day I want to have a log of any changes that happen to just the remit name field. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that remit name field. Okay, I'm going to filter on that so I can see that this was changed. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and now schedule the report with this filter on it. Or if I don't want to do it with the filter on it already and I have a filter built, okay, so I have remit name change here as a filter already, I can just click on the full report, click add to schedule, and when I go to the apply filter area, I can choose that filter. Either way works. Either you have the filter in place first, or you just have the full report, click add to schedule, and then filter. So I'm going to go ahead and here click new report. And I want a daily remit name log. So now we can start to see how easy it is to really deliver valid and pertinent data when it's necessary, when it's needed. So I'm going to go ahead and filter this for remit name changes only. I'll go ahead and click next so we can see the update field is in remit name and the event type is in updates. If that's not the filter I wanted, I can come here and choose a different one. I should probably name my filter something different. So this is where it's only filtering where the update field is in remit name. We don't care what type of event type it is, whether it's an add, update, or delete. So you can, one of the keys is make sure you name your filters a little bit better than I name mine. So we'll go ahead and now save this report. And because this is a daily report, we're going to choose our frequency of daily, but we're going to also choose who should get this. And Snook runs our check, so I want him to get this on a daily basis in PDF. I'm going to have this start as soon as tomorrow. And we do a check run at 4 p.m. every day. Okay, so I want to go ahead and choose to have this delivered at 3 p.m. So we'll go ahead and do that. We can schedule that. So once we do that, oh, and I want to choose no end date here. I'll go ahead and click next. And now this all looks great. I can see where these changes are. We'll hit schedule and all is good. And now we have a new report scheduled. Okay. So with that being said, that's pretty much the beauty of the functionality of the Audit Trail tool. You get this information delivered to you in a multitude of different ways. You're seeing where the changes happen. So for example, we can see that there were some changes happening here that came right from Microsoft SQL Management Studio. So we can start to see, hey, you know, who has access to our data at a database level? Why are they making changes in the database rather than within Dynamics SL? And the change happens within Dynamics SL. We see the Dynamics SL screen name where the change happened. Okay, so we're collecting all of that information. And then the final piece I want to touch on is a little bit about data management. Okay, so one of the biggest questions that we always get when it comes to Audit Trail is, hey, we're gathering all of this data. Where does it go and what do we do with it after a while? So the way that it works is when we first gather the data, it's gathered right in the Dynamics SL database where the change occurred, but then every night there's a process that moves that data to a FastPath database that resides on your Microsoft SQL server, on your SL SQL server. That's where these reports run from, okay? So they're going to be reading from that database. They're not going to be reading directly from your SQL database, your SL database. We don't store anything in your SL database long term. We don't want those SL databases to grow with Audit Trail data. Okay, we want to keep it completely segregated. And another reason why we do that is because right within this tool, you have the ability to actually manage that data. You can archive and purge your Audit Trail data. So right now I have about 25,000 rows of Audit Trail data, which isn't bad considering that this data, I think, stems all the way back to like 2010 or something like that. It's pretty old data. And so we can go ahead and choose to archive pretty much anything that we want. Or actually this is newer data. So we can go ahead and choose what we want to archive, what period we want to archive from, and then that will go into an archive table. So it just improves the report performance. And then after a specific period, whatever your data retention policies are, you can go ahead and purge that archive data after that particular policy. Or, you know, so if it's, you only need to keep 2 years of Audit Trail data because it doesn't need to be treated with the same considerations as financial data, you can purge that data as long as it's been archived already. Okay, so that's one of the benefits of being able to manage the data right from within this tool. So with that being said, I'm done with the presentation portion. Val, I do see that, you know, we've had a question or two come in. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and maybe take some of these questions now. And I'm going to turn the presentation back to you so you can put up your contact screens and things like that.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. So I'm going to expand this. I have to pop this out. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the questions that we have so far are, do the triggers slow down other processes in SL? And the answer is no. Actually, in the 13 years that we've been doing this, we have yet to have competing triggers where we have issues with our triggers interfering with other triggers or not being compatible or anything like that. And then as far as system performance, I will tell you this. Okay, we did have a client that decided that they really didn't want to take the time to discuss internally about what they wanted to audit. So they wanted to go ahead and just apply triggers to every single database and every single every single table within the database, every single column within the table. That did slow their system down. I mean, imagine the number of tables and the number of columns in every table and adding that volume of triggers into SL. Not a great idea. Funny enough, it didn't cripple them completely, but we did have them go in and really undo that very quickly. Once they decided then to have those internal conversations and they took a risk-based approach, they saw no performance impact whatsoever because they really, you know, kind of limited it to that critical data. So then the next question that we received is, does it matter what version of SQL Server we are running? And the answer is sort of. You can use this back to SQL 2005. So if you're on SQL 2000, unfortunately you're out of luck. Hopefully nobody is on SQL 2000, but it goes all the way through the latest and current version of SQL. Okay. And then the next question is, does all this monitoring take up a significant amount of data storage and processing resources? So we talked about the processing resources. Let's talk about data storage for a little bit. We estimate that for every 1 million rows of audit trail data, it creates a gig of database space. Okay, so if you're auditing key fields, let's say you're auditing about 15 to 20 columns on the vendor table, and then another 15 to 20 columns on the customer table, and then maybe another 10 columns on the account table. Let's say that's 50 columns right there. And then, you know, you're making changes to maybe 20 or 30 of each of those items a month. So let's say 30 for each is 90 times 50. You're talking about 4,500 rows in a month, and then you extrapolate that out 12 months. You can see how much data you're creating. So you can start to excuse me, go ahead and, you know, start to kind of calculate out how much data space you might be taking up by using that general rule of thumb. 1 million rows of data equals about a gig of basis space. We just got another question. Can you have more than one audit trail on a single table? And the answer is yes. Within that table, you're going to audit the individual columns. So you're going to choose which columns within that table you want to audit. So it's technically auditing at the column level and not the table level. So I'm not sure if that answered your question or not. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Yes, it did. Okay, perfect. Good. Any other questions? These are all great questions, by the way.
If you have any other questions, please type them into the question box. And if not, we thank you guys all for attending our webinar today. If you would like more information on Audit Trail, please reach out to your Microsoft partner. We can provide you pricing and answer any other questions you might come up with, or show your company a private demo if needed. So again, thank you guys all for attending. Liz, thanks so much for the great presentation, and we will follow up with the recorded version of this on our website. And have a great rest of your day, everybody.